share screen first, Doctor?
Sorry?
Maybe you can try to share screen.
All right, all right.
The slide, right?
Sure, sure, sure. Can you see the slides?
Yes, Doctor, yes. Yeah, beautiful slide.
Thank you.
October.
Yeah, total 6 classes, right?
Yes, 6 classes.
Inshallah.
So, inshallah, already 9. We open first our season today with Kitab al-Fatiha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Amin. Okay. Thank you to Allah who has given us the chance to continue our class today. And أحييكم بتحية الإسلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Inshallah, we will continue our class today by Dr. Saeed Muhammad Muhsin on his subject, Objective of Sharia, of the Sharia. So, inshallah, the slide that Doctor will show here, inshallah, he will share it with us, inshallah. So, we began with today with the subject, Objective of the Sharia. فليتفضل مشكورة دكتور.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وزد على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Respected professors and beloved brothers and sisters from all over the world, Alhamdulillah, we are in the 3rd week of discussing Maqasid al-Sharia. We have covered the aspects of definition and the concept of Maqasid al-Sharia, its significance for everybody, I think, not only for the learned community, but also for the lay people, not only for the Muslims, but also for the humanity in general. How Maqasid al-Sharia can contribute for having a healthy, sound, prosperous life in this world as well as in the hereafter. Hasanatan fi dunya wa hasanatan fil akhirah. Then in the last class, we touched upon the areas of the historical background and the development of Maqasid al-Sharia from the beginning of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's period till the contemporary stage. And we have also mentioned that nowadays, or in the contemporary period, it has got a kind of unprecedented impetus to move ahead and to bring the Maqasidic discussions in almost every area. Last 2 months back, I published a paper that was about towards a Maqasidic governance, road towards a Maqasidic governance for the revival of Waqf in Kerala. Kerala is the southern part of India. So there is a Waqf Waqf sometimes, unfortunately, are overlooked. It has not been used as it's supposed to be used. So, Maqasid al-Sharia being an infrastructure or the landscape of the philosophy of Islamic law, the Waqf property, which has an innumerable and immense potentiality for making changes in people's life, for the betterment of people's the quality of life. Sometimes it is overlooked and underused or mismanaged. So, utilizing the principles of Maqasid, how can we propose certain road and governing principles to rejuvenate the Waqf properties in particular area. So in this way, why I mentioned this personal experience, because in your life also, when you are making a decision, regardless of the discipline you are dealing with, or regardless of the area or the walks of life you are concerned with, the Maqasid has a say on that. Not just to say a in and profound, I mean, the kind of foundation is there from a Sharia perspective. So in that way, we can say Maqasid al-Sharia's discussions is a very, very important, and it's not just as an innovation by the contemporary scholars, but it has its own roots in our traditional scholars' texts, not only them in the Quran, also in prophetic tradition. So number three is what are the major categories of Maqasid al-Sharia? Maqasid al-Sharia is the higher objectives of the Sharia. So in general, the ulama have classified the Maqasid into three categories. The base or the paradigm of the classification or categorization is based upon its importance and its significance and its vitality in our life. So we have three. Number one, maybe some of you already know, which we call Loruriyat. Lorura, the concept of Lorura, which you might have learned from the previous session taken by Prof. Amanullah, talked about al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya al-Islamiyya. Al-Daruratu tubihu al-Mahdurat. I mean, the necessities begets facilities, or if there is a huge al-Mashaqqatu tajlibu al-Taysir, there is a Darura, that is necessity. Al-Daruriyya, al-Daruriyya. So in Maqasid, we have Daruriyat, that is the highest of the top priority category. That means we can, in English, say, sometimes people say necessities or essentials. Number two is Hajjiyat, which is translated as needs. Needs, Haja, from the word Haja. Number three is Tahsiniyat. Tahsin means you make something beautiful. You husnul khuluq, right? The husn is the good character. So tahsin is making something good. Okay, so tahsiniyat is kind of embellishments which will make the thing or the character or the subject looking good. So these are the three categories, and which has been written here according to the importance, the descending order of the importance. Now let's see what is meant by the term Laruriyat. Laruriyat means these things are must in our life, which are necessities, which are essentials, without which a sound and healthy survival of humankind on earth would be difficult. That means these things are unavoidable, inevitable for having a sound and healthy survival of humankind on earth, and also to get an excellence in the hereafter. And I would like to emphasize that the sound and healthy survival does not mean from a peripheral perspective or just a materialistic perspective. Rather, from an Islamic perspective, we believe that it is not just a material world. There is beyond the physical world, we have a metaphysical world. We have an aspect of inner aspect. So for having a growth and sound and healthy existence, survival, growth, and development of the humankind on this earth, we need certain things. That certain things has been categorized under the category of essentials. That means if one of them or all of them are absent there, that will lead to the destruction, that will be catastrophic, that will create the chaos and disorder in on the earth, in the life, which will not be consequential or creating negative consequences, or not only for the human but also for the other creatures as well as the ecosystem. So now you see, we told that Maqasid Sharia is the higher objectives of the Sharia. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with his immense munificence and mercy and compassion upon the human being, he sent the Sharia for achieving certain things. So in these certain things, the number one, the top priority are called essentials. So sometimes even the learned community, from the Muslim Ummah also, when they hear the word Sharia, they think of something very cruel, kind of wild and weird things. Because sometimes they always, because of the media and because of the influence of the propaganda agenda team, I mean, the Sharia terms has been spoiled in general for our brothers and sisters from the other faiths communities. Sharia, it's related to the stoning, it's related to the hudud, it's related to the strict adherence to certain dogmatic rituals. But it is not that. The Sharia, from a Rahman and Rahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to protect and promote certain values. And Sharia not only aims for that, but also gave us a methodology, a code of life, a way of practice, and how is there the tools to reach and to achieve those goals. So how to achieve these goals? How we can achieve this essential in our life? For that, Sharia has given us affirmative and punitive measures. Affirmative means, I mean, when we are creating, when we are planting a seed to grow it as a bigger, fruitful plant, two things we are doing, right? Number one, we will do the things which are in harmony for its growth, which are conducive for its growth. For example, we have to water it, we have to put the things which will make it more bigger, grow bigger. So that is the constructive aspect. Now, another side also we will do, that is, we will eliminate the things which will distract its growth. That is very important. We have to apply this one in our life also. If you want to become a bigger, a salih, a mu'min, a muslih, a muhsin, if you want to become a person of ihsan, sometimes we will focus on the affirmative things which will make us good, but we will overlook the things which may in the course of time will come as a destructive factors. For example, if you are planting a seed, but if you have not the fence surrounding it, if you don't have a border, that something will come and eat. So if you are really focused, if you are really serious about what you are doing, you have to create a border in order to protect, in order to eliminate, in order to avoid the things which may cause negative things towards this. So Sharia, in order to achieve the essentials, has given us the affirmative things. In Maqasid term in Arabic, we say janibul wujud. How can we ensure that its existence? And punitive is the word means something corrective, something penal. If in order to eliminate the harms out there. So if you do these things, then you will have this kind of punishments there. Why? Because we want to protect the humanity and the humankind. So I think Imam al-Ghazali might be the one who explicitly found and mentioned the five things exactly, the essential things. So Imam al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, in his very important book in the Usul al-Fiqh, al-Mustasfa min ilm al-Usul, he has mentioned that the main objective of the Sharia, Maqsood al-Shara. He used the word Maqsood al-Shara. The Maqsood has a relation with Maqsad, and the Maqsad is the singular of the Maqasid. Okay, so he used the Maqsood. Maqsood al-Shara is a realization of the five things. So, which are the five things? Number one, protection of the faith and religion. That means our deen. Hiflud deen. It's not any religion, because inna deena inda Allah al-Islam. The only acceptable religion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Islam. So, hiflud deen is very important. Then their life, hiflul nafs. Then their intellect, hiflul aql. Then their offspring, that is the lineage. The family, hiflul nasl. Then their property, hiflul mal. So the maqsood al-shara, that maqasid al-sharia is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Sharia to us is for five things. Number one is to protect our deen. Okay, this is very important. That is the top priority, because وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We believe that the core purpose of our existence on the earth is the ibadah. So Hifluddin is very important. So maybe an outsider may think Sharia has come to protect the deen. Not only, but the Sharia has came to protect our health. Life includes not just the life or death. No, our health, our life, our body, and not only the body, the humaneness, the primordial nature is also very important. We call the fitra. So the protection of the fitra is also important. So when COVID-19 spread, we stopped the prayer or Jumu'ah prayer for some time in the masjid, because we believe, yes, we need Jama'ah, we need Jumu'ah, but we also need our life should be protected. That is why sometimes we use the concession and we cancel and we suspend the prayers for some time in the masjid. So hiflul nafs is important. Then their intellect. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited the intoxication, al-kham, the wine, the drugs. Why it is prohibited, the narcotics, everything prohibited? Because this is its immediate and the direct impact is on our intellect. Intellect is an amana. Intellect is the locus of taklif, the legal obligation, which is the one we distinguish between human being and other animals, which is the one, because of that we became obliged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shouldn't be a tool for playing with that. That is why intoxication is prohibited. Then the offspring, the family, protection of the family is also the concern or the important concern or the one of the necessities Sharia came for, its protection. Then the property, their mouth. So these five are actually all-encompassing, too comprehensive, too inclusive, to include and to cover all other human needs on earth. So anything involving the protection of these fundamentals is a benefit. I mean, in Maqasidic discussions, you always come across the terms maslaha and mafsada. Maslaha is the word meaning is that benefit. The mafsada, the word meaning is evil or harm or destructive things. So Imam al-Ghazali says that whatever things are good for protection of these five things, we call it as a maslaha. Whatever things are bad for the protection of these five things, we call it mafsada. So let's see a few examples of daruriyat, essentials. So Sharia encourage the pursuit of knowledge and education to ensure the intellectual well-being of people and the advancement of the arts and civilization. So, talabul ilmi fariidatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslima. Now you see all of you are doing something really great. I mean, maybe you are from the different specialization, you are working people, but still you are finding some time, maybe early morning or evening, whatever time zone, you are putting some efforts because you believe that the pursuit of knowledge is a compulsory and obligatory duty of every Muslim. So why we need to pursue the knowledge, why we need to seek the knowledge? Yes, it's very important for hiflul aql. So that is an affirmative thing, constructive thing for the hiflul aql. The punitive thing for the hiflul aql is the prohibition of the khamr, for example, or any kind of addiction. Maybe these days we have to talk about more about, I mean, if you are too addicted to the social media, that is against your the hiflul aql. And not only that, nowadays the multi-billion industry of business is pornography. People sell the obscene things, the indecent things, and they are making money. If they are getting multi-billion dollars, that means that much of people are using it or finding fun it or addicted to it. And scientifically has proved that the addiction to the pornography or this kind of the things has a huge and immense destructive reasons to cause our intellect. Our intellect has been spoiled. Our creativity has been varnished, and our innovative thinking and a healthy life has been uh, at the risk of destruction. So you see, from a hiflul aql perspective, anything related to pornography, we can easily say that it is prohibited. And why we have? Because your aql is too important, and it shouldn't be used for this kind of the things. Now, punitive, penal, corrective jihad has this been validated in order to protect the religion. I mean, so is just the retaliation qisas, which is designed to protect life. In Sharia, certain occasion, with certain condition and shurut and dawabit, jihad can be done when your religion and the people are under the attack, illegal attack, or unlawfully some people are making some onslaught. Why? Because this is a punitive measure to protect the religion. And the retaliation, qisas, you know, I mean, if somebody kills someone else, he will be also killed, right? Or he has caused some loss of any organ, his organ will be also, I mean, cause for the loss. So why the retaliation? Because the qisas has two purpose. Number one, people will be protected from the perpetrators' harmful things. Number two, qisas, the people will get rid of or will practice an abstinence from doing these things out of the fear of the punishment. Then number three, an example, theft, adultery, wine drinking are punishable offenses as they pose a threat to the protection of private property. Theft is against hiflul mal, protection of your mal, your property, your wealth. And adultery is wala taqrabu zina. You should not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the delicate use of the word wala taqrabu zina. You shouldn't do the zina or the adultery, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you shouldn't go even closer to the zina. That means you have to close all the doors that may lead to the zina. If the zina is there, your family is at risk, your children at the risk. The children out of adultery will be also a huge threat for the sound and healthy survival of the society or the humankind on the earth. Then the wine drinking, because it's prohibited, because it is posing the threat towards the protection of the human intellect. Sharia encourages work, that is an affirmative things. We cannot say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too powerful. He is the one who gave me a mouth to eat, so he will also deliver me the food to eat. No, Sharia is not saying in that way. Sharia encourages work and trading activity. You have to go, you have to do business, you have to do agriculture, or you have to go to the factory, you have to work, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a razak, the one who gives you the rizq. But you also say you have to use al-akhdhu bil asbab. You have to do the causes to get that result. That is what we call tawakkul. You do your job and expect the result. If you are not doing the job and expecting the result, that is we call tawakkul. Tawakkul is not encouraged in Islam. And also, Sharia encourages us to do the business, to work for the food, to win the bread and butter for your family. And also gave us the certain regulations also. You shouldn't do the usury, the interest-based transactions. And you shouldn't do the gambling. إنما الخمر والميسر والأنساب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان. So the Sharia asked or encouraged to work, and also elaborated how you should work. Why the elaboration? Because this kind of maisir and gambling and the interest-based transaction is against the protection of the al-mal, which is good for only to grow the wealth of certain people. Islam is not considered for the certain people, but it's a comprehensive framework of life and code of life. Now, affirmative, the family laws of the Sharia are likewise an embodiment of the guidelines and measures. So we have hiflun nasl, the family protection, and in fiqh we can see a huge portion has been accommodated or devoted for discussing about the munakahat, the family. How should be the family related to the family things, the marriage, the divorce? If sometimes people will need to the divorce, also for the protection of the people, if there is no any chance of survival, cordial survival between the couple. So the divorce is there, then mirath is there, inheritance. So these are also affirmative. And the scope of laruriyat, the essential maqasid, in other words, consider the scope is everywhere. This maqasid is presence you can see in every hukum, every walk of your life, in every transaction you do, in every single segment of interpersonal relationship, we can find these things. So this is daruriyat, the essentials, the necessities. Number two, we are talking about hajjiyat, complementary maqasid, but I think the better usage is needs. So the needs is that complementary interest, because mainly for removing the severity, hardship that do not pose a threat to the very survival of the normal order. That means hajjiyat are important, but not as important as essentials. So usually the discussion related to the hajjiyat will be the concessions, the rukhas mentioned in Islam. And for example, if somebody is patient and sick, he can break fasting during the Ramadan. Why? Because in order to remove a hardship from his life. Because even though you are sick and patient, you have to fast, it will create problems for them. Somebody, a breastfeeding woman or pregnant woman, if they think that fasting would be cause a problem to them or to their child, they can break fast, then they have to do the qala. They have to do after the delivery of the baby. Why it's okay, it's allowed to break fast? It's because of eliminating the severity or the hardship or the difficulty that may cause if otherwise has been done. So, for example, the concessions, as I mentioned, the rukhas, shortening the salah, you're a traveler, you can do the qasr, or you can do the jam, you can do together, Dhuhr and Asr together. I mean, otherwise, if you have to pray, you are traveling, it will be difficult for you to stop here and there, and not only for you, for those who are traveling with you. And opening of the fast for the sick and the traveler, which Sharia has granted, are aimed at preventing hardship. But are they as essential as the things which we mentioned in the Daruriyat? No. That is why we put them in the category of a Hajjiyat. In the sphere of mu'amalat, Sharia has validated certain contracts, such as sale of salam. Salam means that which is not the property is not there, but you want to make a business out of that. Certain things Sharia has given permission. For example, you are a farmer. Maybe by December you will have something. You will do the agriculture. You will get its result. Then you can sell it to someone else. But in September now we are talking about the fruit is not yet there. But we can do this kind of transaction. We can sell it, or we can get an advancement, because if we are not doing, maybe it will be very difficult for the people. I mean, for example, for this kind of farmers to do the transaction. So actually, it is irregular. There is an irregularity. There is an anomaly in this transaction, because in Sharia you cannot sell which is not present or existent at the time. At the present time, if something is not present, you cannot sell it. But certain things Sharia has given permission, because in order to remove the troubles and otherwise problems from the life of the people. Likewise, Sharia permits the divorce in situations of necessity by way of a concession, which is aimed in the final analysis at ensuring the well-being of the family, defending it against the intolerable conflict. Actually, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this Quranic verse given the three reasons of the familial life, which is sakina, which is mawadda, which is rahmah. So the prima facie understanding of a marital life is that permanent, should be permanent. You married, you live together, eternal, forever. Okay, this is the normal understanding, or it is the original course of action needed to be done in the marriage. But at certain times, things go unexpected way. I mean, it will not be under the control. So rather than forcing them, once you married, you have to say no. Certain things, people can make the divorce, which is good for their well-being. Then certain time, the things we mentioned in Hajjiyat could be also the Daruriyat. A maslaha of the second class is elevated to the rank of essential maslaha when it concerns the public at large. For example, the validity of ijara may be secondary importance to an individual, but it is an essential interest for the society at large. In Sharia, the public benefit is given huge importance. I mean, you might have learned that al-dararul a'am tudfa' aw yudfa' bil-dararil akhaf. The public harm should be eliminated at the expense of private harm. So, for example, there is a mosque and there is no space as an entry, as a gate or there is a gate, but using that gate is too difficult for the people. Then we can ask, or even we can force the one who is a neighbor to the masjid to sell certain area to be used as a way to the mosque. So there is a darar, harm for this private property of this person, but which is done for removing a public harm, public evil for the general people. So that is then this person should be compensated. The public or the community has the responsibility to compensate the person whose property is used for eliminating the harm of the public. So when something becomes the concern of public, it is given huge respect in Sharia. So ijara, for example, ijara or the concession, the ibadat, which may look secondary or hajjiyat, but when it looks from a perspective of the society or the community, it might appear as in the category of laruriya. There is another maxim, al-hajatu tanzilu manzilata al-darura. Sometimes the need will be placed in the space of al-darura, necessity. Okay, maybe there is a conflict between various classes of maqasid. If there is we have mutually exclusive choices may appear in our life. If you are protecting this hajjiyat, you have to negotiate or you have to compromise the lururiyat, then you have to do the lururiyat aspect. Okay, but if there are a plurality of the conflicting interests and none appears to be clearly preferable, then the prevention of evil takes the priority over the realization of the benefit. There is a qaida in fiqh, jalbul mafsadat, dar'ul mafsadati awla min jalbil maslaha. Certain, if we do an action, or if we engage in a course of an action, there is benefit, there is harm, or there is pros, there is cons. There's a good thing, there is a bad thing. Then, if both are looking equal, what we should do? We should focus on the aspect of obliterating this harm. That means we shouldn't do that action. Yes, we are going to lose the benefit, but why we are not doing that action? Because we are, or Sharia is more concerned on eliminating the harm. Prevention of evil is more important. Where from we got this idea? The Sharia is more emphatic to the prevention of the evil. In prophetic tradition, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu, wa ma amartukum bihi fa'atu minhu mastata'tum." If I have prohibited something, you don't do that at all. At any cost, you have to try to avoid that. But whatever I mentioned, maybe you can do according to your capacity. In this one also, we have to, in our personal life, we are doing a lot of things, maybe farl prayer, tahajjud prayer, duha prayer, family protection, be good to the neighbor. All these things are amr, good things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to do. That we have to do according to our capacity. But sometimes we are not good in our family life. That is certain things manhiyat, or you shouldn't engage in any indecent things, or you shouldn't do this and that. I mean, each one of us know that which is manhi and ho. But sometimes we give equal significance to both sides. We do a lot of prohibited things, and we also do a lot of good things. Rather, do little good things and avoid all the prohibited things would be a good model of acquiring the spirituality or the religiosity in our life. Number 3 is tahsiniyat. Tahsiniyat is, as I mentioned in the beginning, something which made things husn. Is it important? Yes, very important. We should not avoid it, or we should not neglect it just to say it's a tahsiniyat. I am more about the laruriyat. No, the existence or the availability of this tahsiniyas is very crucial for the perfect nature of Hajjiyat as well as the laruriyat. So that is very important. For example, it's related to making something good, perfection, how you deal with the people, the respect for your parents and the teachers, the elder people, professional conduct when you ask to do on time, personality, ethical improvement. When you go to a majlis, go with a clean dress, with the purity, with perfume. People will not be embarrassed because of something on you. These things are very, very important. So tahsiniyat example is cleanliness of the body. Yes, cleanliness is important. I mean, there shouldn't be a najas. More than najas, to be very clean, to be very looking good is also the consideration of the Sharia. And the proper attire for the purpose of when you go to the masjid, sometimes when we go to the office, we look so concerned about our attire and our appearance. But when we go to the prayer, we take it for granted. So that is also we have to think about it. I mean, and using the perfume is also good. When the Friday prayer, one of the hadith Prophet ﷺ says, and the importance, and so many our elder classical, our exemplary scholars are also emphasized on having the good smell, using the good perfume. I have to say good perfume because there are a lot of the perfume which are not really good. And also Sharia discourages the consumption of the raw garlic. You eat the onion or the garlic which is not cooked, maybe it will spread the bad odor to the people. So even there is a prophetic tradition that if you eat that, you don't go for the Jama'ah prayer because it will be disturbing for the people who are along with you. And not only for the people, for the Malaika will be also difficult. So we have Fardu prayer, but we have to also perform the Sunnah. For example, we just finished the Subuh prayer here. So before the Subuh prayer, you have to pray 2 rak'ah. So that 2 rak'ah is, in one of the tradition, if I'm not mistaken, Prophet ﷺ said that is better than having all this world and what is in this world. So this kind of things also related to tahsiniyah. So also customary matters in relation among people, Sharia encourages that you have to be gentle, you have to be pleasant, you have to be fair in dealing. Also, the judge and the head of the state are similarly counseled not to be too eager to enforce the penalties for the people. Be calm, be quiet, be gentle, be good with the people is also come. So the concept of ihsan, the road towards the excellence, comprehensive excellence, itqan, perfection, all are important to this. So the tahsiniyat, yes, it comes number 3, but it's very important for having the laruriyat and hajiyat in its place. So if you are falling short in doing this tahsiniyat, definitely it will reflect in the quality of laruriyat as well as hajiyat. The Maqasid Sharia's application, all these discussions, I am indebted to the book written by Muhammad Hashim Kamali, Maqasid Sharia are made simple. I think available PDF is available online. You can also refer for more information related to this. So one can extend the application of Maqasid to almost all area of human conduct, implementation of almost all ahkam in a Sharia. Now we have the second category is Maqasid Amma, Maqasid Khasa. Maqasid amma is general purposes. Maqasid khasa is particular purposes and goals. So there are two categories. One maqasid amma, which will be in all hukum, in all parts of life, in all segment of our interactions. These the maqasid would be there. But there are some maqasid which are only related to, for example, to the financial transaction, or related to only the family matters. That is we call maqasid khasa. So maqasid amma, what is maqasid amma is Imam Ibn Ashur, the famous scholar in Maqasid al-Sharia, has said, it is to promote the well-being and righteousness of salah. We call salah, right? Huda, salah. How to promote this well-being and righteousness is the overall or all-encompassing or maqsad am of Sharia al-Islamiyah. Then we have maqasid qat'iyya, we have maqasid dhanniyya. Qat'iyya is which is definitive goals. Dhanniyya is maqasid speculative goals. I am concluding within a minute, inshallah. So definitive goals means that has a clear-cut support from Quran and Sunnah. The speculative goals may be little bit, I mean, maybe there is a disagreement between the scholars regarding its conformity or uncertainty. That is what we call speculative. Some scholars say it some way, some scholars say in different way, that is speculative purposes.
Doctor?
Yeah, I am stopping. Yeah, I'm stopping. Then maqasid sharia is there, maqasid mukallaf is there. Maqasid sharia, Allah's objective. Maqasid mukallaf is related to the mukallaf. I mean, what is our intention, our goal is that. The end result is that maqasid mukallaf should be in harmony, should hand in hand, should be in 100% conformity with the maqasid sharia. Wa subhanallahi رب العالمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. شكرا بارك الله فيكم.
Thank you, Doctor. Alhamdulillah, today we have learned about ad-daruriyat wal hajjiyat wal tahsiniyat, mashallah. Hope our all participants can understand and benefit from the knowledge today regarding ad-daruriyat wal hajjiyat wal tahsiniyat, insyaallah. Syukran jazilan Dr. ala hadhil muhadarah ra'iyah wal manfaah insyaallah. And I think Dr. Shaheed? Dr. Shaheed already here? Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Saheed, for your presentation today. One minute. Dr. Shaheed? Dr. Shaheed Abdullah Busari, can you raise your hand? Shaheed, yeah, yes. Yes, Doctor, I'm already, yeah. And inshallah, we will continue with Dr. Shaheed Abdullah Busari on his title, Concept of Halal and Haram in Sharia, that we have already done with Dr. Shaheed Mohamed Muhsin on his topics, objective of the Sharia, and we benefit already regarding ad-daruriyat wal hajjiyat wal tahsiniyat. And now we will continue with Dr. Abdullah Shaheed Abdullah Busari on his concept of halal and haram, insyaallah. Falyatafaddal maskurah, Dokter. Alhamdulillah.
A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Summa salatu wa salamu ala ibadihi alladhina astafa. Wa ala sayyidina Muhammadin al-Mujtaba. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given us this opportunity once again to come together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us as an act of ibadah. We pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to shower his peace and mercy on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah reward all our teachers that have taught us. May Allah reward Triple IT and IUM for coming up with this program. As we have done last week, we'll be looking at another topic relating to halal and haram. In the last class, we tried to conclude about the concept of halal in terms of the meaning, in terms of the implications, in terms of the scope. And today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we try to look at the categories of juristic rules in halal and haram. When we say halal, what are the categories? And when we say haram, are there specific categories? These are the things we'll be looking at today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. In the category of halal and haram, we have established to us in our previous classes that evidences relating to halal and haram must be based on Sharia. So when we say Sharia, we mean the norms, the values, the principles which are designed to govern the Muslims' behavior. So this is what we call Sharia. And this has been willed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because the right to declare something halal or haram only belongs to Allah. Human being doesn't have that right. We established this in our last class. Haqqut tahleel wa tahrim lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So human can only derive evidences. We can derive evidence from the Sharia source and we declare something to be halal or haram. So what are the categories that we have? So at the end of this class, we want to see what are the categories we have for halal and what are the categories we have for haram. And we said that Sharia is the basis of determinant. What is Sharia? The rule of Sharia. Who is the Sharia? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we say Sharia, we talk about the rule of Allah, the rule of the Creator, the norms, the principles, the values, the regulations that has been laid by the lawgiver. And the lawgiver is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that law which Allah has given, there are certain things that are halal. In the law which the lawgiver has given, there are certain things that are haram. So we want to see, even that thing that is halal, does it have categories? Even that thing that is haram, does it have categories or it's just one thing? So this is exactly what we want to see today. And in hukm al-Shari, وَهُنَاكَ حُكْمُ الشَّرْعِ وَهُنَاكَ حُكْمُ الْفِقْهِ وَهُنَاكَ فَرْقُ بَيْنَ حُكْمُ الشَّرْعِ وَحُكْمُ الْفِقْهِ. So حُكْمُ الشَّرْعِ is that norms, values, principles that has been laid down by Allah. Technically, we say is the communication from Allah that relates to the act of the Mukallaf. Every communication that Allah has sent to us is embedded in حُكْمُ الشَّرْعِ. خِطَابُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى al-muta'alliq bi-af'al al-ibad, af'al al-mukallafin. So the commandment of Allah, the communication from Allah is a communication, khitab. Allah has sent the Quran. That is khitabullah to us. So when we read Fatiha in Salat, that is khitabullah. Allah has sent that message to us. And the Sunnah is meant to exemplify, to clarify, to establish further, to explicate further what the Quran has said. So these are some of the bases of Sharia. The Quran was Sunnah Sahihah. So these are from the fundamental basis of Sharia. So Sharia is a communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is relating to the act of the subject. The subject of the law is mukallaf. Al-mukallafu huwa subject of the law. That is the person that needs to obey the law, the person that needs to act on the instructions. So in his actions, there are certain things that are halal. In his actions, there are certain things that are prohibited, that are unlawful. And this is the basis of where we need to see the categories. So in Hukm al-Shari'i, we have a demand from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is, the communication from Allah is a demand. It could be a demand. The communication from Allah could be a demand. It could be an option. And it could be a declaration to affirm or to make an impediment, which we shall see as we go on. Actually, when we look at the whole Quran, for some of us, or for some of us that will have been used to studying Sharia or Fiqh, you will have seen that even in the Quran, they told us that we have more than 50 categories of command in the Quran, commandments, commands, but they mean several things. I could ask you to sit down and in my local language means something else. So in Malay language, when we say makan is food. But when we say makan, we means come and eat food. So because when we say food 2 times in Malay language, it means come and eat. So in the Quran itself, the textual sources indicate a lot of things, which scholars have tried to understand based on Usul al-Fiqh. That is, there are many commands in the Quran. And when the Usuliyin, they were looking at the command based on textual meaning, we have more than 50 categories of commands. They now categorize and they categorize them into 5 main commands. And eventually, even in Madhab Hanafi, they categorize their own into 7. So we will see this more when we study Usul al-Fiqh with other courses. But for the purpose of this course, we just want to establish the fact that Hukm al-Shari'i is a communication from Allah. The communication could be a demand. The communication could be an option. The communication could be a declaration. خطاب الله تعالى المتعلق بأفعال العباد اقتضاء أو تخييرا أو وضعا. So if it is iqtida, a demand, تخيير, option, وضعا, a declaration. So we want to see all this as it relates to halal and haram as we go on. That is the communication from Allah, a demand by lawgiver for commission or omission of an act. It is iqtida'an. It's a communication from Allah. It's a demand from Allah that you should do or you should not do. That you should do, it is halal. That you should not do, it is haram. It's just a demand. We demand that you don't enter the room because it is haram for you to enter. It's also a demand not to do, also a demand to do. So there is a demand in Sharia, and demand has 2 categories, has 2 other sides. Either demand to act, that is to commit, or demand to omit. So a demand to commission means you should do it. It is halal for you. A demand for you to omit means it is haram for you. So here also, the subject of the law is demanded to commit or omit. So here, the implication is that in demand, you are either demanded to commit it, to fast in Ramadan. You have to commit yourself to fasting. To avoid having a conjugal relationship with your wife when she's in menstrual cycle. يسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض. So you have to avoid. You have to avoid at that particular time. You omit it. It's a command. It's a demand for you to omit. There are demands for you to do. For you to eat in the day of Ramadan is prohibited. Kulu washrabu hatta yatabayyana khaytul abyad min al-khaytul aswad min al-fajr. So you don't eat in Nahar or Ramadan. It is a demand that you should omit it. Don't eat. Wa kullu muftarayat, and everything that can vitiate your fasting, don't do it. So that is a demand. So demand in Sharia could be a demand for you to commit or omit. In the second category, we have an option. That is the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relating to the act of the subject, but it is an option. The first one is the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relating to the act of a subject that demand that you should commit or omit. The second category is the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الخطاب من الله سبحانه وتعالى متعلق بأفعال العباد تخييرا. You have an option, even though it's a communication from Allah relating to your action as a subject of the law. You have an option to do and not to do. كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. So somebody will not say, oh, the Prophet ﷺ said, oh youth, whoever among you has the capacity, you should go and get married. يعني فليتزوج is a command, but then is a message of Sharia. But يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم, كلمة استطاع that the hadith mention shows that it is not compulsory because of that particular clause that at a particular time until you have the capacity. Istita'a, financial capacity. Istita'a, social capacity, physical capacity. He has gotten to the age of maturity, puberty, and can handle age of rushd, and can handle family issues, can handle family challenges, can work, can look for nafaqah, can take care of a lady, can have children, can take care of a family, then you have to marry. So it is an option at a time. That is, you have option to do it now. So somebody who is just in part one and said, I want to go to daddy, I want to get married. And the daddy will ask you, how do you want to do it? I said, daddy, I don't know. Then to your daddy, it seems you don't even know what you're talking about. You want to get married at year one, and I ask you how you want to do it, you don't understand. But when you say, oh, daddy, since I've gotten to part one, I've been saving a lot of money, I have savings, I've bought a car, I've been doing this and that, then daddy will take you more serious. Because you have option to do now or to do later. So it's an option, that is a communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the lawgiver relating to the act. That is an action, that is the lawgiver gives options between commission and omission. You can do and undo. Whether you do it now or you don't do it, there is actually no punishment or reward, except with your intention that if it is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have a reward for that. Also, the subject of the law has the option to commit or omit. So in the case of options, which we call ibaha, so you have the option to commit and omit. That is the second category of a communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we have the last category, which is a declaration. It is a declaratory law. خطاب الله تعالى المتعلق بأفعال المكلفين المكلف. وضعا, it is a communication from Allah that relates to the actions of the subject of the law in a declarative form. What is declarative form? A declarative form will let us to determine the consequences of the first option and the second category. The first category and the second category. That is, حكم الوضع جعل الله سبحانه وتعالى يعني وضعا لإثبات أو لنفي أو لمنع شيء. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed those حكم وضعي, declarative law, has indications, symbols for us to declare that this is permissible, this is not permissible, this is correct, this is not correct, this is an impediment, this should be allowed, this is vitiated, or this is nullified, null and void. All these rules. That is why if somebody prays and he doesn't pray very well, he says salat ghayru sahih. As-salatu as-sahiha, the salat is sound. Why? Because it's complete. When we say salatu batil, somebody is praying without ablution. Salatu batil, salatu batila, is praying without ablution. Actually, is doing an exercise. So declarative law will let us to know what we are doing, to what extent is acceptable or not, if it has fulfilled all the cause, the conditions, and all the pillars of ibadah or mu'amalat. We shall come to these as much as we can. This is more of Usul al-Fiqh subject, but is relating to halal and haram. We try to explain so that we can see where does halal fit in the categories of hukm al-Shari, bayna hukm al-Taklifi wa hukm al-Wad'i. So the declarative law, what the lawgiver has made as an indication in relation to demand or option. You know, in the first two categories, we have the demand. The second category, we have the options. But then the lawgiver has given us declarative law. The declarative law will let us to know which one falls within the demand or falls within the option. It is an indication that Allah has commanded us to perform salat. Have you performed the salat properly? Declarative law will let us know that salat sahiha. Have you given zakat properly? Zakat sahiha. Why? Zakat batila. He said the zakat is batil, is null and void. Why? Because he's paying zakat with a stolen money. How do we know? Once we have evidence that the money is paying zakat, which is a stolen money, zakat batila. He doesn't have money actually, because one of the conditions in zakat is that it should be your money actually. So a declarative law will now declare it that it is haram. Batila. So declarative law will let us to know which one is sahih. Will let us to know which one is shart, the conditions. This is the condition for salat. Ablution. Why is the salat is not sahih? He said because it doesn't have ablution. One of the conditions of salat is that there must be an ablution. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum. So before you rise up for salat, you must do ablution. If there is no water, you do tayammum. So because it doesn't have this, we said the salat ghayru sahih. So it's a declarative law that will make us to declare it to be halal or haram, to be permissible or to be rejected based on the declarations that we find in Sharia. So what lawgiver has made an indication in relation to demand or options will be given in declarative law, hukmul wad'i. So we have that the subject is demanded or has options after declaration. So after a declaration is made, the subject of the law, mukallaf. Who is a mukallaf? Mukallaf is somebody that is subject to the law of Sharia. He must be a Muslim, must have gotten to certain, maturity age. He understands khitab is not a majnoon. That is a mukallaf. So a subject of the law now is subjected to, to the rule of the declarative law based on his action. Sometimes we say you cannot pay zakat. They say why? Because you have a lot of debt. So there is an impediment that has entered into your money. He said, what is the impediment, please? Because the money is a stolen money. What is the impediment, please? Impediment of declaration shows that you have a lot of debt. And when you have a lot of debt that has even eaten up the whole of your money, in actual fact, it is not your money. In actual fact, it is not your money. So we want you to pay zakat from your money. And that is a declaration to say that there is an impediment for him to remove money from his zakat. So this is the three categories that we have basically in Sharia rulings. Hukm al-Shari, that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, not human being. It's Allah that gave us. But the scholars did a lot of intellectual effort, ijtihad, to derive this methodology, to derive these principles, to categorize these principles so that we can be able to understand that there is something we call a demand, iqtida'an. There's something we call option, takhyiran. There's something we call declarative law, which is hukm al-wada'i. So in short, the demand and option is also categorized to be hukm taklifi. Even though in hukm taklifi, we now divided into two, the demand and the option. So the demand and the option in Sharia is all categorized into hukm taklifi. That is the obligation creating law. Hukm taklifi, obligation creating laws. That is, we create obligation and we create them in categories, which we shall see in our next slide as we go on. So here we want to talk about the hukm al-Shari. As we mentioned in the last slide, we said it has two categories. Hukm al-Shari has hukm taklifi wa hukm al-wada'i. Hukm al-taklifi covers the two we discussed. That is, hukm al-taklifi covers the demand and the options. Please don't forget, it covers the demand and the option. That is, iqtida'an wa takhyiran. Iqtida means it's a demand. It's a demand that either demand that you should commit or omit. An option means you have options either to commit or to omit. So when we now go into hukm taklifi in its full description, we want to see how much they relate to halal and haram at the end of the day. So obligatory rule, which is hukm taklifi, which is the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that relates to the actions of the subject of the law, the communications of obligation, that is hukm taklifi. The communication of option, that is hukm taklifi. That is, hukm taklifi has two communication. It can either be communication of an obligation, obligation that you should do it, obligation that you should not do it. La taqrabu zina. La taqrabu zina in the Quran means it is an obligation. You must not come near fornication, adultery. Innama al-khamru wal-maysiru wal-ansab wal-azlamu rijzun min amal ash-shaytan fajtanibuhu. Kalimatu fajtanibuhu, that Allah says in the Quran, that is alcohol, gambling. This is her handiwork of shaitan. Go away from it. Go away from it is a command, a communication of obligation to not to omit. So it could be to do, it could be not to do. A communication of obligation, a communication of options, both are hukm taklifi. Hukm taklifi is the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that relates to the act of the subject, either communications of obligation or communication of option. And in communication of obligation, obligation to commit or not to commit. In the communication of options, obligations of whether you like to commit or you like not to commit. So these are the, the general definitions which somebody who wants to understand the hukm shari should be familiar with. Then we have the declarative law. The declarative rules, we call them hukm al-wada'i, as we explained earlier. Hukm al-wada'i is a communication of declaration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to declare something valid, to declare something null and void, to declare the existence of impediment, to declare something as fulfill all the conditions, to declare something that all the causes, the reasons why you have to do it has been met. That is what we call declarative rules. So as we go into them, we shall see what are the examples and which one falls within halal and haram, and inshallah we shall see. We have wujub. That's the first category in hukm taklifi. Wujub, that is wajib. It is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made wajib for us. Aqimu salata liduluki shamsi ila ghasaki al-layli wa qur'an al-fajr. Aqimu salat. The kalimatu aqimu salat. Observe salat is a command in the Quran. You know what we say? Observe something. Pray salat. Stand up is a command. Allah says in the Quran, observe salat is a command. So we now say that command Allah mentioned, what does it indicate? The command indicates an obligation. There are some commands that indicate option. The teacher asks us to come to class tomorrow, but it's just obligatory. It's just an extramural classes. There is no attendance. So, but the teacher asks us to come. It's still a command, but a command that is not obligatory. But that is a command that is obligatory on the day of examination. Whoever doesn't appear will find himself to be blamed, because the exam will show exactly who was part of the class and who never participated in the class. So there are obligations. That is, the Quran obligates you to do this, and it says this is compulsory for you. So that is wujub. It is yuthabu inda fi'lihi wa yu'aqabu inda tarkihi. Al-wajib. Whatever that is made wajib for you, when you don't do it, you'll be punished. When you do it, you get your reward. So we have the second category, which is nether recommendations. So these, in most cases, a lot of sunnah ma'akkada fall between these. What is highly recommended for us to do? When you do it, you get reward. But if you don't do it, there is no punishment. But if you now abandon it intentionally, see, nadab are those things that the Prophet would do so many times, but sometimes he will not do it. So so some scholars categorize them to be sunnah mu'akkada, and they are all falling into category of another. That is, there is highly recommended. There is a recommendation that you should do it. Ya ma'ashara ash-shababi man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj. So when you do it, there is a reward for you, because you do it with the intention of you want to follow the rule of Allah. But when you don't do it, there is no punishment actually. Except when you leave it because you want to go against the rule of Allah. You know? Salatul witri, Shafi wal witri ba'da salatul isha. So he abandoned it intentionally. Every time he finished Isha, he will not even pray Shafi wal witri. And he knew in his mind that he will not even wake up for tahajjud. Then it's becoming a sin because you are doing it intentionally. But if it's somebody that is used to do it, but he forgot, or he didn't wake up, something happened, there is no sin for him actually, because it is highly recommended. We have the ibaha, also part of the hukm al-taklifi. It's also an obligation, but an obligation that is permissibility. You can choose whether here or there. It's not, you are not imposed. There is no imposition that you should do this or this specifically. You can choose between options, whether to do or not to do. So we call them ibaha, permissible. La yusabu inda fi'lihi wa la yu'aqabu inda tarkihi. When you do it, no punishment. When you do it, when you don't do it, no reward, no punishment. You do it, no reward, no punishment. You don't do it, no reward, no punishment. La yusabu inda fi'lihi wa la yu'aqabu inda tarkihi. وهذا الذي يسمى بالإباحة, permissibility. We also have The karaha, disapproval, we disapprove it, we dislike it, we highly recommend that you don't do it. Even though when somebody does it, there is no punishment. But when you avoid it, there is a likelihood of a reward. So when you avoid it, but once you do it, there is no punishment. And that is karaha. It is highly disapproved. You know, we dislike it, we hate it, we don't recommend it. So it's an opposite of recommendation, actually. So we have the last category, which is the hurma. It is what Allah has made prohibited, unlawful. And that is the fifth category of hukm al-taklifi. That is what has been made obligatory rule for us are these five. But they have categories. The first category is that if you do it, you get reward. If you don't do it, you get punishment. The second category, if you do it, you get reward. If you don't do it, no punishment. The third one, you do it, you don't do it, there is no reward, there is no punishment. The karaha, if you do it, no punishment. But then if you don't do it, you get reward. Hurma, a prohibition itself is what Allah has made prohibited is haram is haram. Haram is haram. And everything Allah has made prohibited, there must be evidence from the Sharia. Evidence that is qat'i. And this is the reasons why the Hanafi, they divided the karaha into two. Karaha tanzihiyya wa tahrimi. That is the one that is totally prohibited. The one that is exactly disapproved. Because they believe that there are some prohibitions that the evidence of the prohibition are weak. Delilu zanni. So they now categorize those ones as tahrimi. So it is a prohibition, but the evidence that prohibit them are weak. There are a lot of issues and examples that we can find around. So in short, when we look at the categories that we have up there, I just want to give us this. Look at it again, everybody. You find out that the first four categories, they are somehow together in the fact that there is no punishment. When you look at the first category, there is no. So once you do it, you get reward. When you look at the second one, there is a reward. When you look at the third one, there is a reward. So all these, sometimes some scholars categorize them to be, when you do them, there's an element of halal. That is permissibility relating to this. Unlike the last one, is the only one that when you do it, you'll be punished. When you do the first one, there is no punishment. When you do the second one, there is no punishment. When you do the third one, there is no punishment. When you do the fourth one, there is no punishment. It's only when you do the fourth one that there is punishment. So that is why some scholars now said that, look, the first four are halal. Why some said only this one is haram, haram is haram. So quickly, let me look at the declarative rules as it relates to our discussion. The declarative rule, there are many categories as well. We have the one that is called sabab. A sabab is the cause. What is the cause of paying something? It is, why do you pay zakat? What is the sabab of paying zakat? Nisab. It is the money, you must have the money. Oh, I have money now, and oh, I have money, mashallah, I have money. And the money has gotten to nisab. Then it's a sabab for zakat. So what is the sabab for salat? When, salatul fajr, when there is, there is a day break. When we see the fajr that comes, the time for salat. Waqtu salat, lidukhulu salat, sabab salat. So the time for salat is the sabab. Aqimu salata lidulukhi shamsi ila ghasaqil layl. So when the horizons are shifted a little bit from the forehead of a human, then you can pray your salat to zuhr. So dukhulul waqt, sabab bin asbab salat. So when the time for salat comes, that is what we call sabab of salat. When you have money in your pocket, in your bank account, electronic money, cryptocurrency, when you have them and it has gotten to nisab, then that is sababu zakat, ikhraju zakat min malik. So sabab is the cause. Why do you have to pray salat? You have to pray salat now because it is time for salat. So what is the shart of salat? Al-wudu. Wudu is the shart of salat. So the sabab is the cause. We have the sabab for salat, we have it for zakat, we have it for sawm, we have. So in Ramadan, when there is Ramadan, sabab. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So it will not be another month, it must be in Ramadan. So we have this category which is shart, the condition. That is, the condition is that condition a prerequisite before you have to do that thing. Which in prerequisites, sometimes they may exist, but that thing doesn't exist. One of the prerequisites for salat is ablution. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum. So you have to wash your hand, your face, all those categories that is mentioned in the ayah. So this is the al-wudu, shart, the sihat salat. So before you can pray salat, that the shart must be met, the condition of ablution. We also have the mani', impediment. When the impediment occurs, something has to be removed. In salat, it passes gas. Somebody who is in menstrual period, she cannot pray salat. A menstruating woman cannot. So why is she not praying salat? Something is impeding her not to pray salat, and that is haid, menstrual cycle. So sabab, when you look at it, even from zakat, we have the sabab of zakat when you have, nisab, when you have a threshold, a money that has gotten to a threshold, then you can pay zakat. The shart is that it has stayed with you for 1 year. For the hala alayhi al-hawl, that is the condition. Then there must be absence of impediment in your money. The money is not a debt. The money is not a stolen money. So in your money, declarative law will let us to know, is it halal or haram? Is it halal for you to do or not to do? So this is, if the sabab has been met, the shart has been met, the mani is not existing. And this is exactly what we have. We also have the siha, that is to declare something to be valid. A siha means that all the condition has been met, all the shart has been met, all the sabab has been met, all the pillars, arkan has been met. So when everything has been met, that means that thing is sahih. Salatu sahiha, your salat is valid. How? Because arkanu salat, al-qiyam, wal-julus, wal-ruku, all this arkan is complete. Shurutu salat, all the condition of salat is complete. You have your ablution. Sababu salat, dukhulul waqt, it is to time. You are not praying your salat to zuhr at 10 a.m. in the morning, actually, or at 7 a.m. in the morning. So all the condition has been met. We say the same thing in contractual agreement. If all the condition has been met, all the cause has been met, there is no impediment, then we say aqdu sahih, the contract is valid. Somebody say, I'm selling you my car, but you cannot ride the car when I sell for you. Passive. It is not valid. How can you sell something to me and you say I cannot use it? So we also have butulan, the one that nullifies something. When it nullifies something, is a declaration. And we also have another one which is fasad, that vitiates. Scholars of Usul have differentiated between these two. The one which is butulan, as a result of the fact that it's heavier. In fact, in ibadah, there is no difference between butulan and fasad. But in mu'amalat, we differentiate. Because in mu'amalat, if it is just fasad, we can repair. It's a corruption, so we can remove the corruption and it becomes better. But in ibadah, butulan and fasad is the same. You cannot repair. Everything is batil and batil at the same time in ibadah. So when you are praying salat and you pass gas, you cannot repair. You have to start again. And this is exactly the difference between Butulan wal Fasad because of time. Finally, I want to note here that looking at what we have done, we found out that wajib is halal because obligatory commission of action involve permissibility. Also, mandub, recommendation, is also halal because non-obligatory commissions actions involve permissibility. Also, mubah, permissibility, is also halal because options, it gives us options between commissions and omission and involves permissibility as well. Also, makruh is not haram, but is disapproved. Because it is not haram, it cannot remain haram. So it has to find a way. So that is why it is always categorized as part of halal. This is a gray area and it must be treaded carefully. The fact that makruh is not haram and it cannot be categorized under haram, definitely it is categorized under halal. But then it remains a gray area. Al-halalu bayyinu wal-haramu bayyinu wa baynahuma umurun mushtabiyat la ya'lamuhunna kathirun minan nas wa man ittaqa ash-shubuhat faqad istabraha li dinihi wa 'irdihi wa man waqa'a fi ash-shubuhat waqa'a fi al-haram kar-ra'i yarha hawla al-hima yushiku an yarta'a fi. The hadith has warned us that once you have ambiguity, you don't have certain knowledge, you don't have confidence that this is the evidence, it's better for you to leave it. Any matter that is creating ambiguity to you, perhaps because you are not a specialist in that area, it is better for you to leave it, to save yourself, to save your soul, to save your religion. It's far, far better for you. Somebody that is rearing animals, just around the garden, one of the animals will enter by mistake. So you have to guide your animals properly. So haram is haram because obligatory omissions of actions involve prohibition on lawfulness. So haram is haram. You will now find out that this is one of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll discuss in Maqasid later on. Why is it that we have more options in halal and we have lesser options in haram? This is one of the mercy of Allah, that we have more options as Muslims. Wajib is there for you, mandub is there for you, mubah is there for you, makruh is also there, even though it's a gray area. So my time is up. So this is the end of today's class. As a recap, this is what we have done just for 1 minute. So for somebody, so this is what we have done today. What is between hukm al-Shari? We say hukm al-Shari is just 3 categories, and the demand, the options, and declaration. The demand and the option are taklifi, and the declaration is wada'i. And we try to differentiate them here, that this is the taklifi that covers all the demands and the options, and this is the wada'i samples. And we declare that almost everything that we have, which is the wajib, the mandub, the mubah, the makruh, they are halal, except that the haram is haram. And makruh, which is part of the halal, must be treated with carefulness, and it needs special knowledge and understanding for you to be declared as part of halal. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Wa'alaikal jaza. Syukran Dr. Syukran ala al-muhadara ar-ra'iyah. MashaAllah. Today we learn about hukm al-Shari, category of juristic rule in halal and haram. There is demand, option, and declaration. Hukm al-wad'i and hukm al-taklifi. MashaAllah. May Allah bless you, Doctor. And we hope all participants can understand and take benefit from it, inshallah. Inshallah, we will meet you again in the next session, inshallah, Doctor. So now we have already finished the first part for today. Inshallah, now we have a break for 30 minutes. Inshallah, come back at 11 with another two doctor, inshallah. Shukran, Doctor, ala hazihal muhadara ar-ra'i'ah.
Al-afwa. Al-afwa. Shukran, Ustaz.
Yeah. And all participants can write your question in the chat box. Last class is I'm really sorry, I'm not known that the chat box doesn't open, and I hope today it can open. But the previous class I forgot it to check it. Yeah, today can you can write your question in the chat box. Okay, all participants, we will come back at 11. Now we have a break. Thank you all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I just want to check whether Dr. Habeebullah is here.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, great. Okay, Doctor, maybe you want to share first your presentation?
Yes.
All right. So, how are you today? How are you, Doctor, today?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Fine. I'm good.
Masya Allah.
How are you, sister?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Let
So,
me check whether this is the one. No.
all right, we have another 2 more minutes
Okay.
before we begin, inshallah. Okay, Alhamdulillah.
Is my voice clear?
Sorry?
Is my voice clear?
Very clear, very clear. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, summa alhamdulillah, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us a chance and time to continue our lecture series online short course certificate Fiqh and Usul Fiqh. So I would like to congratulate, first of all, I would like to congratulate for all the participants and also for the lecture for the highest commitment since the first class till now, Masya Allah, Tabarakallah. And thank you for all your support for this what we call this course organized by IT. So I think without further ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Habeebullah Zakariyah for deliver his lecture on Juristic Study of Financial Contract, Fiqh al-Uqud al-Maliyyah. فليتفضل مشكورا Dr.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن سهلا آمين. اللهم يا معلم آدم علمنا ويا مفهم سليمان فهمنا. اللهم انفعنا ما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما العالمين. وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته and good morning to everyone. Today's discussion, I can call it discussion or class, is about Fiqh al-Uqud al-Maliyyah. So this is the third class. So our previous class we talked about Aqdul Bay', which is more to sale contract. We mentioned that sale contract has we define the sale contracts and condition of sale contract, pillars of sale contract, and today is continuation of what we discussed last week. Last week we talked about tawabuk, we talked about payment. Okay, so tawabuk, if contract between 3 people, but when contract is between 2. And I mentioned that tawabuk and qina is being practiced in Islamic banking and finance institution. However, based on majority scholars, qina is prohibited because it's a trick for riba. But tawabuk, a majority of contemporary scholars allow it, whereby few scholars prohibits tawabuk. Why? Because they are not confident that it's not something that is organized between bank and customers. So some scholars, they dislike tawabuk. So today's contract also is another continuation whereby we can see that many Islamic banks use murabaha. So we use qina, then tawaruq. Now we are using murabaha. So what do we mean by murabaha? Murabaha in English, of course, even though you go to West, many of them, they call it murabaha. But for us, maybe it's English-speaking countries, or maybe for those of us that we are not familiar with Arabic terminology, so murabaha is cost plus margin sale. Cost plus margin sale. So what do we mean? The definition, we have a lot of definitions, but because I want to simplify, so we can say the contract is a sale contract in which a seller sells its good or asset at cost, inclusive of an agreed profit. Okay, so means that A wants to buy something from B, okay, but B doesn't have that item or asset. So A will go to market on behalf of B, who is a seller. Then we buy the item and specify how much is the price. Then we sell with another margin, which is more to profits. So in this contract, the sale price may be paid on spot, or it can be deferred payments, but the price must be known to both parties. So normally in murabaha, the good or asset will be purchased after a buyer requests the seller to purchase the good or asset in order to sell the same asset or the same good to the buyer on murabaha basis. Usually we be on deferred payment to the buyer. Usually, even in banking sector, usually murabaha will be for certain tenure, maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 10 years. Okay, so if we want to put it as a lay man or a normal individual, so A here is customer, or let us say a buyer, and B seller. But at the moment, B doesn't have the assets, no asset. But remember what we mentioned in our first class is that one of the conditions of sale is that the asset must be in existence. You cannot sell something that you don't own. So B, we go to market and we buy the item that A wants. Okay, when we return, we say, okay, let us say a fan or fridge or car, for instance. I bought it 15,000 ringgit or 15,000 USD or 15,000 in your currency, for instance. So the price must be known. You must disclose the price. Then you will tell him that this is my profit. That's why we call it murabaha, from the word ribh. Ribh means profit. So if you buy that item and you didn't disclose, you just tell him, oh, I want to sell this one or this item or this good, and then you put the price. No, this contract is not, will not be validated by Sharia. Okay. So in that sense, we need to know the basic requirements of murabaha contracts. Number one, the seller, it might be bank, if you want to institutionalize it. It might be individual, must own the assets before you can transfer the ownership, before you can sell it. And the seller must take possession of the assets. Okay. And the last one, the cost must be disclosed to the buyer. Why? because the buyer is the one indicates his interest in that particular transaction. So when I indicate, for instance, I indicate that I want to buy a car. But you, as let's just say Abdullah, Muhammad, you don't have a car. Then you will enter into murabaha contract with me. If you go and buy the same item that I want. So you need to own the assets. Not only own, you also need to possess the item. Okay? Means that there is another requirement. Sometimes you own something, but you don't have possession of it. For instance, as we mentioned in our first class, if you own a car, but the car is already stolen, you cannot sell it, right? So that's the difference between if you have the ownership of an asset and also you possess or that asset under your possession. And the last one is that you need to disclose that Muhammad, you need to disclose to me that this car, I bought it, let's just say 15,000 USD. You need to disclose it to me. And then you put your profits. Don't put the profit, everything, then you say, I will sell it to you maybe 20,000 USD. No. Because one of the conditions is that you must disclose the profits. You must disclose the profit, and at the same time, by default, you are disclosing the price of the good. Now the question is bay' murabaha in banking sector, Islamic banks, is it allowed or not? Okay, this is a very crucial question, but before we answer, let us know the condition for or how we use murabaha as financing mechanism in the banking sector. Number one is that me as customer go to bank for financing, maybe financing a car. I want to buy a car, I don't have car, or I want to buy any other goods. Okay. Then the bank will appoint me as wakil, an agent, to purchase that assets from the seller. So seller here is another entity, is another person, right? So here we have three. We have bank, we have customer, and we have seller. So bank, we appoint the customer on behalf of bank. So the customer will buy, purchase the car or any asset that we agree. Now, third stage is that the customer as wakil, okay? Wakil in English is agent. Okay? As wakil will purchase the asset from the seller. Okay? Let us say 60,000 ringgit Malaysian. It means that in that case, the banks already own the assets. Okay? Then the bank will then sell the asset to the customer on murabaha basis. Let us say 63,000. So 60,000, the original price, 63 is the selling price. Now the customer will pay the selling price to the bank on deferred payment basis. In that case, the bank may ask for maybe collateral, may ask for security, and security differ from one bank to another. One of the security may be you need to open an account in that particular bank so that they know the flow of what is coming to your account. And of course, they will assess and evaluate your financial capability. Now, some of them they will say, okay, your salary must come or must be you use your salary account so that they can deduct money before the salary is paid to you. Now, one few issues that attach with murabaha is wa'ad, which is promise. Because let us see, in the first, customer goes to bank for financing. Let us see car. But later, the bank buy the car. The customer say, I'm not interested anymore. I'm not interested anymore. So because of this problem or this risk, normally bank will ask that something must be like binding. So that's why in normal circumstances, bank use the concept of wa'ad. So now, is wa'ad binding or not binding? Promise, is it binding or not binding? So majority of our classical scholars, they said that the promise is not binding. It can be binding on yourself, but it's not like a bilateral. It's not a contract. It's just promise to enter into contracts. So some banks, when they structure this murabaha, they use binding promise, which few scholars, they don't agree. But as far as some scholars, especially in Malaysia, Central Bank of Malaysia, SAC, they allow that a promise should be binding in that circumstances because they need to safeguard and protect the bank. Another issue is that, is there any certainty that bank own and possess the item that they want to sell on a basis? So these are the few issues for us to decide whether murabaha in banking sector is allowed or not allowed, or whether murabaha in banking sector, Islamic banking sector, fulfill the Sharia requirement. But because we also have Sharia board, so Sharia board, one of the things that Sharia board need to ensure is that the contract is in line with Sharia, and banks own and possess the item, asset or good. So these are the few before we can conclude that murabaha in banking sector or Islamic banking and finance sector is Sharia compliant. Okay, the second contract that perhaps we can also talk under seal contract is bay bithaman and hajj. Bay bithaman and hajj. Usually we call it BBA. Bay bithaman and hajj. Bay means seal. Bithaman with price, ajil bifa is with bifa seal. So it's this contract refer to sale with deferred payment of the price, and some scholars they know it as bay al-mu'ajjal or bay bitaqsid. Bay bitaqsid because it's installments. So when you have installment, of course, you don't pay the price immediately. So they give you a grace, they give you a period of time to pay the price. This contract, based on Majma and many scholars, it is allowed. It is allowed. Even though there is a kind of ambiguity, which is called jahala, but this kind of jahala is forgiven because is very small thing, and no contract can avoid this kind of ambiguity. So of course, we all of us, we believe that there is certain uncertainty, okay, and also a kind of ambiguity. But at the same time, this kind of uncertainty or ambiguity is something that two parties or contracting parties, they can forgive each other. So it's allowed to pay on defer, or to agree that the price should be on defer basis. But for this contract to be allowed in the light of Sharia, we need to fulfill certain conditions, or certain parameters must be put in place. One of the parameters is that the price must be known to both parties. Okay, known in the sense that quantity and quality must be known to both parties. The time frame also must be known, because we say the permanent ajit deferred basis. So up till when? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 1 month. So this must be known so that buyer also know his obligation, that he need to pay the price and the certainty. Also, transferring of ownership must be made immediately. So the Majlis al-Aqd, when you say ijab and qabul, so you need to transfer the ownership of the item. And normally scholars, when we talk about transferring the ownership, they usually mention 2 things or 3. The first one is al-qabdu, possession. So it means that the buyer must give him that authority to possess the item. And takhliya is that you lift your hand from that item, so you don't hinder him to utilize the item. You give him a key, but you say don't use the car, and means that even though you surrender the key, but you hinder him from utilizing the items. So in that sense, you need to fulfill the condition of qabdu and condition of takhliya. When we fulfill both conditions, then the haqqu tasarruf means that he can utilize as he wants. And so the buyer can utilize the item. And the last one, which is very important, the price shall not be increased because of default. Because it might happen, for instance, when you ask a person to pay the price, let us say 1 month, but he didn't manage to pay the price. So what should be the consequence? Now we have the concept of al-Gharama. Gharama means that we penalize him. So penalty, for instance, we say, okay, you need to pay extra. So this extra in the sight of Sharia is like riba, because it's like day. This is day, debt. So he cannot pay the debt, he default to pay the debt, then you penalize him to pay extra. This is what we know in Jahiliyyah as riba and Jahiliyyah, and it is prohibited. But how to protect the seller? Because Islam protect both. Protect the seller and protect the buyer at the same time. So if, for instance, the seller incur any extra payments because of these arrangements, then he can file a case against this buyer that, okay, I incur. So this is what we call a ta'wil, compensation, but not garama. Garama is penalty, but ta'wil is you need to calculate. Maybe it harm you in certain maybe it harm you, or maybe you have another transaction or another arrangement with another person, which because of this you didn't fulfill that arrangement or that promise. So in that case, you can fight a case that, okay, so person, because you did not fulfill your promise, I also default in another. So we can have the concept of ta'wil, but not garama. Any garama here we consider as okay. We also have al-musawama, which is more to bargaining sin. So in bay musawama, the property is sold for mutually agreed price without reference to the cost price or to profits. In other words, this sale is based on bargain and agreement of the parties, and the seller is not obliged to disclose his cost price or his profits. So we call it musawama because the power of bargaining here is more stressed. Is this contract allowed? Yes, it's allowed. The contract is allowed. Scholars are okay with this contract because it's more to how you can agree. Because the seller has right to sell with high profit or low profit, or even with loss. Okay, and that will allow us also to mention about this contract, which is bay al-wadi. So wati'a is a type of contract, the sale contract, where the seller sells his commodity below the cost price, or it can be considered as discount. Even though many scholars raise alarm on the concept of discount in conventional way of banking sector or even financial sectors. But if there is a clear evidence that this is below the price, then we consider this as one of the bay and wadi, because the cost, the price is below the market price. If I can put it. So you can sell below, but the government also, if we have regulators, they can have regulators that we cannot sell below, because it might affect other traders. But in normal circumstances, from Sharia point of view, there is no any Sharia issue if someone wants to sell below the price. Another sale contract that we have is bay at-tawliyah. Bay at-tawliyah, and this type of sale, the price is set equal to original acquisition cost without any price. So, for instance, I buy a book at 5 USD. Okay. Then I sell it 5 USD. Is it allowed? Yes, it's allowed. There is no issue. But someone might ask, why do we allow both contracts? The first sell below the price, the second sell the equal price without profit. So what is my gain? What is my profit? Sometimes as tajir or trader, we might face difficulties in, or we might be facing or challenges. So I want to sell it I want to sell the item asks, I buy. Why? Because I want to buy another item which is more attractive in the market. Or I feel that, okay, the good is not more interested in the market. So I need to lower the profits, for instance, or I put it below the price. It's also okay. So it's not necessary that when we talk about profit, it's not necessary that material thing. It might be, okay, I just want to get rid of these items. I don't want them anymore. I want to maybe focus on another business. So it happened in market. So let other people benefit from these circumstances. Okay, so someone feel that, okay, this good is not attractive. Another person say, oh, it's very attractive in my community or society. So take this and bring it to your society and we can see. So this contract, as I said, is allowed based on Sharia principle, and there is no any. So another one that we have is Bay as-Salam. Okay? Maybe Bay as-Salam, if we have time, we will also talk about Bay al-Istisna. Okay, what do you mean by say as-Salam? Bay as-Salam is an advance sale of specific goods, okay, in which this good must be supplied at a later date, okay, whereby the price or the payment must be made in advance. Okay, let us say A and B. So A has good, maybe a date, let us say date or banana, mango, and B has price. So A enter into salam contract with B. So B will pay the price immediately, but A will deliver the good later. It can be after 5 months, after 1 year, no problem. But in that case, the good must be specified. So good must be specified. At the same time, the price must be agreed upon. This contract, the price must be paid in advance. Okay, a majlis. So I pay you, but you need to deliver the item, you need to deliver the goods later. In summary, salam is a sale whereby the seller undertakes the supply of specific goods to the buyer at a future date in exchange of an advance price fully paid at spot. So price will be fully paid. This is maybe opposite of Murabaha. Okay, Murabaha, the good will be delivered immediately, the price will be paid later. But in salam, the price must be paid at spot, but the good will be delivered later. You can see the correlation between the Murabaha and salam. But someone will ask, we mentioned in our first class that before you can sell something, that thing must be in existence, right? But if you don't forget, I put it in the clause that except in salam contract, because in salam contract, the good is not in existence yet. But there is indication that here that the good must be specified. The same thing in istisna contract. So we have a few hadiths on salam, and this is very famous hadith from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, and the people used to pay in advance the price of fruit to be delivered within 1 or 2 years. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed this in Quran, and he said, whoever pays money in advance for dates to be delivered later should pay it for non-specified weights and measure of it. This hadith is narrated by Imam Bukhari in Saheed. So when Prophet ﷺ saw them, and there is hajjah, there is benefit that Islam and Prophet ﷺ allow this kind of thing. Because a lot of people in need of money, okay, they have good, but it's not yet good. So Prophet ﷺ allowed, but he put some parameter. Number one, the item must be known. Okay? The item must be known. So you cannot sell something that is not known. Even though it's not in existence, but at least it's known to every one of us. Whether quantity, quality. So you want to sell dates, okay, on salam basis. Okay, which kind of date are you talking about? Sukari, ajwa, or you need to name. And then, if, for instance, there is variety, maybe sukari, we have one in Medina, another one in Mecca, another one in Ta'if, another one in China. You need to mention sukari of China, sukari Malaysia, sukari Nigeria, sukari which country, so that we know what we want to buy. And also, you need to the quantity. So not only the quality, but the quantity as well. So maybe a ton or carton, or so you just need to mention the quantity and the quality. And also ajal, the time, ma'lum, the time also must be known. So one of the conditions is that the time also must be known to both parties. So we have few key terminologies we need to remember. So when we mention salam, we refer to two things. So salam apply to the contract as a whole, and is also used to refer to object or good which is to be delivered later. So when we say salam, it can be the contract itself, the whole system, the whole transaction, the whole arrangement. At the same time, we can use it for the good of the object that we want to deliver. Another terminology that we need to remember is al-Muslim. Al-Muslim. So al-Muslim here refers to the owner of the property, in the party purchasing the object. So al-Muslim. Al-Muslim ilayhi. So we have salam, Muslim, al-Muslim ilayhi. Muslim ilayhi here refers to the party who takes on the obligation to deliver the object or good at future price. We call him al-Muslim ilayhi. The fourth one, al-Muslim fihi. Al-Muslim fihi. Al-Muslim fihi refers to the objects of the contract, the object or good to be delivered in the future, right? So we call it al-Muslim fihi. So al-Muslim fihi and salam can be also synonyms, okay? Because salam has two meanings. It can be the whole arrangement, and it can be specified to the good or object which is to be delivered. And the last terminology that we need to remember, Ra'sumal al-Salam. Ra'sumal al-Salam. So Ra'sumal al-Salam here refers to the capital, the price paid in advance of delivery of the sale object. So we call it Ra'sumal. In normal circumstances, Ras Mal is already the capital. But in this agreement, the price that you need to pay on spot. So we consider it as Ras Mal or Ras Mal Asl. The question is this contract allowed or not? For us to see whether it's allowed or not allowed. In general principle, is allowed because Professor allowed it. And some scholars say, is it exceptional cases? Besides, because we have general principle, okay, and then we have rukhsah. We consider it as rukhsah. I think in few classes, some of our lecturers talk about rukhsah, mubah, and so on. So I don't want to go into that again. But can we consider it as rukhsah? Or is another original case or a general principle in contracts? So majority scholar, they say is we consider it as exceptional case because general principle is that you cannot sell something that is not in the present, it's not existing yet. Okay. So let us go to basic. I know that sister is
You have 5 more minutes, Doctor.
5 more minutes. Okay. And go very fast. Inshallah. Okay, number 1, buyer must pay in full at time of concluding the contract. And also we must have full specification of sale item. You cannot say, I want to sell durian. Which durian are you referring to? You cannot say, I want to sell rambutan. Which rambutan are you referring to? You cannot just simply say, I want to sell mango. Which mango? Australia, Malaysia, UK. You need to specify and the quantity of it. Also the dates. You cannot simply say that, okay, later. What do you mean by later? 1 year, 1 month? And even some scholar like in Shafi'i school of thought, you need to mention whether Hijri or Miladi, because it's different. You mention Hijri because Hijri and Miladi is different. Also, it shouldn't be on giveaway item. Maybe this takes longer time to what do you mean by giveaway item? I may mention few giveaway item in my first class. So, but giveaway item shouldn't be a giveaway item because if it is giveaway item, this contract is riba. Because in giveaway item, we cannot have exchange of 2 giveaway items with these agreements. We cannot do so. Okay. Okay. If I have 2 more minutes to conclude for istisna. Istisna is another in advance sale of a specific commodity not yet manufactured. Okay. Although the buyer may make process progress payment, no advance payment is required. Okay, it's not necessary. Unlike salam, you need to pay in advance. So an istisna is only valid if the price is fixed with the consent of both parties and to be manufacturer commodity specification are fully agreed upon by both buyer and seller. Okay, so seller here is manufacturer. This also is based on exceptional cases in Sharia, and majority of scholars they allow it. Okay, before Hanafi school of thought, they are the one started talking about istisna, but later other mazahib also allow istisna, but they might call it salam, but in Hanafi school of thought, they call it istisna because from word of sunnah. So sunnah is manufacturing. So any manufacturing contract will fall under al-istisna. Anything related to agriculture will fall under salam. But now in banking sector, we use salam and istisna, even though if it's not in agricultural sector. Okay. Allah Ta'ala alam, I know no more time. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Habeebullah, for your insightful discussion on this topic. So today we learn about Baitul al-Murabbaha, BBA, Bitaman Ajil, Musawwamah, and also Betul Salam, and whatsoever and so forth. So thank you once again, Doctor. We'll meet you in the next class, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. All right. Okay, for those who, for the participant who are unable to join this session, you may join, you may find this lecture series via YouTube channel. Maybe you can search IT online classes and feel free to subscribe on our channel. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Habeebullah Zakariyah. And now on, we move to the next lecture, which on comparative jurisprudence. Al-Fiqh al-Muqaran, that will be presented by Assistant Professor Dr. Hassan Suleiman. So I just want to check whether Dr. Hassan, are you here? Maybe you can raise your hand. Dr. Hassan Suleiman?
He already inside, but I already create him become co-host. Wait a bit.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Hassan Suleiman to deliver his lecture. Please welcome, Doctor.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Can you hear me, sister?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين القائل في كتابه العزيز فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده القائل في حديثه الصحيح من يرد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على نهجهم إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Thank you very much, our moderator for today, Sister Nurul Balqis. And once again, thanks for the organizer, Triple IET, with collaboration with faculty of Abdullahi Abu Suleiman, Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, for giving us this opportunity in order to discuss about this subject, comparative fiqh, in this Majlisul Ilm. So inshallah, without further ado, I will proceed from where I stopped last session. Last time, last class, we have finished discussing about the term at-tarjih. When you're talking about comparative fiqh, we discussed about the term at-tarjih, the definition of at-tarjih, and I highlighted that scholars or ulama ul-usul have a kind of disagreement in defining this term at-tarjih. Is it at-tarjih, is it related to action of al-murajjih, who is al-mujtahid or who is al-usuli, whereby if there are disagreement in the legal issues, you will come to make a tarjih or reach to a preponderant opinion. So is it that tarjih, it's action of al-mujtahid himself, or it's a sifa related to dalil, evidence? يعني هل الترجيح من فعل المجتهد المرجح أو هو يعني وصف قائم بالدليل الراجح? So they have the different opinion on this. And also last time I mentioned, or we discussed about the meaning of comparative fiqh and its relationship with the term at-tarjih as well. We also discuss about the hukum of at-tarjih. Here, what we mean by the hukum of at-tarjih is the validity of invalidity of practicing this term, whereby if there are a disagreement between the scholars. So all these actually you can refer to classical books of Usul al-Fiqh or Fiqh in order to be more knowledgeable about those issues. You can refer to, for example, al-Zarkashi in al-Bahr al-Muhit. We can refer also to al-Imam al-Amidi in Ihkam. We can refer to al-Imam al-Ghazali in al-Mustasfa, etc. So also last thing that I discussed about last time is about if at-tarjih is permissible to be used. So what are the conditions of at-tarjih? We mentioned the conditions of at-tarjih last time. So I summarize this in three things. Number one, I mentioned that a murajjah, first of all, should be as objective as possible in examining legal conflict. Without any interest should be coexist in his process of examining legal conflict. So this is one of the main conditions. Condition number two, also, it is important that the murajjah should be well versed in the skill of arranging, in the skill of arranging counter argument. Number three, the final element requires a murajjah to be familiar with disagreement legal issues, because in order to make a tarjih, you have to make sure that what you want to reach to a preponderant opinion on its disagreement issues, not issues that are not disagreement issues. Because, for example, if you are not familiar with the disagreements issue, you may end up doing tarjih in a consensus issues. For example, you may like some people claiming that let's make equality between female and males in terms of in faraid or al-mawarith. So why? Because now most of the females in this contemporary life are already working like men. So let's equalize the faraid system. So this is not actually disagreement issue. This is a consensus issue, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned clearly لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. So what I want to say here is that someone have to be familiar with the disagreement issues before making a tarjih. So those are the main things that we discussed about last time. Today, inshallah, we will start to look about other things also related to this subject, comparative fiqh. We will be talking now about the benefits of studying comparative fiqh. Is there any benefit of studying comparative fiqh or not? Because some people may claim that there is no any benefit of studying this kind of fiqh. So that is why it is necessary, and it's very important to highlight that the most of the benefit of studying comparative jurisprudence. So although some people may claim that okay, there is no need to study comparative fiqh, rather than that you should focus on one of the four major madhahib, to study al-fiqh al-Hanafi or fiqh al-Maliki or fiqh al-Shafi'i or fiqh al-Hanbali. This is true. If we say for the beginners, this is true. So when you want to, like I mentioned at the beginning of these sessions, that we can divide fiqh into two actually. Fiqh that related to certain madhab, and fiqh that is comparative fiqh that related to, or related to all madhahib, and even not just the four major madhahib, even madhab al-Zahiri, and even the opinion of the companions themselves. So fiqh al-Muqaran can be studied after you are aware of one of the major fiqh that is more common in your community or in your country. For example, if you are from Asian country, Malaysia or Indonesia, so you can start with fiqh and madhab al-Shafi'i, study the mutun related to this fiqh, to this madhab, to this school of thought. Then after, later on, you are qualified, you can start reading about books related to comparative fiqh as well. So there are many benefits actually of studying comparative fiqh. Among, number one, attempting to discover Allah's ruling regarding issues that scholars regarding issues that scholars have disagreement about. So this is one of the benefit of studying comparative fiqh. Number two, developing the fiqh skills. How? Through reviewing scholars' opinions in debatable questions, and recognizing the scholars' ways to infer the Sharia ruling. So of course, when you are studying this kind of fiqh, comparative fiqh, you will gain a lot of skills through revising scholars' views and opinions in debatable, in disagreement legal issues. So this will give you skills, and you will take it along your way to become mujtahid, inshallah. Number three, combating fanatism and removing it from fields of scholarly research. One of the benefit of studying comparative fiqh is you are like also you will fight the تعصب, محاربة التعصب المذموم، التعصب المذهبي المذموم, combating fanatism and removing it from fields of scholarly research. Because when you are looking into comparative fiqh, although your madhab may be Hanafi or Shafi'i or Hanbali, but when you are discussing about comparative fiqh, you want to study all the views of the scholars, starting from Sahaba until Tabi'in, until the A'imma, the four A'immas, and what are their reasons and adilla, evidences, and you want to reach at the end to the preponderant opinion, which is at-tarjih. So if like that, so you cannot stick to your own madhab. So that is why one of the benefit of studying comparative fiqh is combating fanatism and removing it from fields of scholarly research, al-bahth al-ilmi. So fiqh al-Muqaran will enable you to end up choosing a preponderant opinion without fanatical endodism in any school of Islamic legal thought. Number four, opening the door to utilize the different fiqh schools, and for selecting fiqh opinions that are preponderant. Okay, opening the door to utilize the different fiqh schools, and for selecting fiqh opinions that are preponderant or that realize the public interest in various contexts, times, and as well as places also. So this is one of the benefits of studying comparative jurisprudence. Number 5, appreciating and benefiting as well from the effort of previous scholars, ulama, our fuqaha. So in this way, the Islamic legacy is safeguarded, and the cause of merge, cancel or freeze the fiqh schools are voted at this case. So this is very clear. Another benefit also highlighting the richness of the Sharia, Islamic law, and its applicability to all times and places. Another benefit, showing the value of fiqh and its close connection with the source of legislation. Last but not least, last benefit, demonstrating the necessity of studying Arabic language as a language, being the language of the Quran, without which the Quran cannot be properly understood. So without knowing Arabic language, ulum al-lugha, you cannot understand both the text from Al-Quran and Sunnah. So similarly, studying comparative jurisprudence shows the necessity of learning the occasions of revelation, which they call in Arabic asbab al-nuzul. So you need to be knowledgeable about this, the abrogating or abrogation and the abrogated al-nasikh wal-mansukh, hadith methodology, which they call mustalah al-hadith, and principle of fiqh or usul al-fiqh, and the rulings, verses, and hadith, ayat al-ahkam, and their roles in the process of ijtihad. So all these, when you are studying comparative fiqh, you will be knowledgeable with all those field of knowledge, which is I believe this is benefit also as well. And also, if you are more knowledgeable with all those field of knowledge, occasions of revelation, nasikh wal mansukh, hadith methodology, and so on. So this also enable you to have the capacity to make a tarjih in disagreement legal issues. Those are the most of the benefit of studying comparative fiqh. So now we move to another topic which related to comparative fiqh as well, which is the causes of juristic disagreement, which is ikhtilaf in early Islamic jurisprudence, and as well as the jurist. So now let's start with the first era, which is Asr al-Sahaba. What are the causes of ikhtilaf, of khilaf, and why there are too many disagreements even between the Sahaba? Let's look at the Sahaba era first, because when Sahaba have disagreement in any issue, so this means that also the era after them, Tabi'in, Atba'ut Tabi'in, until our contemporary life also, they will have same disagreement, because disagreement, that means it's that from Sahaba. So what are the causes of ikhtilaf or disagreement among the companions? So this is what we want to look at now. If you look at the history, actually, you will see that during the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fiqh al-Islami was not codified. It was not codified. غير مدون, لم تدون بعد. So there was no research carried out as was done by the jurists of later periods, who propounded and explained what constitutes essential arkan, conditions, shurut, and adjuncts, adab. So same was the case during the period of the companions, where fiqh al-Islami jurisprudence remain uncodified. Sorry. However, juridical discourse were being carried out. Companions had to undertake the duty of guiding the Muslims community in its spiritual as well as worldly affairs after the prophetic era. So from here, people confronted new problems. Many problems arise, which call for novel solutions. For example, if a text of the Holy Quran or pronouncement of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam covered such a problem, or if the Prophet had decided a similar case, there could be no problem. But new facts and circumstances kept arising for which no provisions had been made. So this was partly due to the fact that the affairs of the community was expanded with the expansion of the Muslim community itself. So in such situations, the people approach the companions, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, who not only occupy the positions of intellectual and religious leadership, but also, as we know, prevail to witness and participate in the legislative activities of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for decisions, in turn, the companions try their best to base their decision on the Quran and the teaching of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, on several occasions, they had to decide such problems which were not directly covered by the injunctions or awamir fil Quran al-Karim or in Sunnah. So on the basis of ijtihad and personal reasoning, qiyas, while doing so, they interpreted the legal text according to such principles of the Sharia. So the companions disagree due to several factors or reasons. Following maybe could be the basis cause of the ikhtilaf among the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. So here I would like to mention the basis causes of the ikhtilaf, which leads to the khilaf or ikhtilaf or disagreement among the companions. Number one, I just mentioned it now in briefly, then later on we take each one of those causes to explain and to give several examples. While we are giving example also, those examples mostly they are all disagreement legal issues. So number one reason or cause is ikhtilaf owing to the different understanding or interpretation of the legal text. So this is one of the main things that causes ikhtilaf or disagreement among the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum themselves, among the Sahaba themselves. Number two, occurrence of homonyms in the legal text. Occurrence of homonyms. So this they call it in Arabic al-ishtirak al-lafzi or al-lafz al-mushtarik or al-lafz al-mushtarak. So this happened also in several verses of Al-Quran al-Karim or Sunnah. So which causes also ikhtilaf among the companions and of course among the fuqaha or jurists later on. Number three, several factors related to hadith which cause ikhtilaf, such as, here there are many things can enter this number three, such as a doubt in the authenticity of hadith. So if there is doubt in the authenticity of the hadith, so this may cause also ikhtilaf among the companions. B, absence of information of the hadith. There is no any information of the hadith. C, contradiction report of hadith on the same issues. If there are that, inshallah, we will explain this in detail. I just want to state them now. Then later on, we will explain about each one. So this is number 3, which is several factors related to hadith which cause ikhtilaf, such as those 3 factors that I mentioned just now. Last but not least, absence of a text on a particular issue. So عدم وجود نص صريح في المسألة. So this is also one of the causes of the ikhtilaf among the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. So those 4 things are the main asbab or causes of disagreement between the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Later on, we will talk about the fuqaha after Sahaba. So now let's focus about the first era first. So let's look at the first cause, which is ikhtilaf, owing to the different understanding or interpretation of a legal text. So let's give example here, so that this factor or reason or cause will be clear. When Iraq and Egypt were conquered, the question regarding the distribution of the land arose. These issues, they call it in Arabic, تقسيم الأراضي المفتوحة عنوة على الفاتحين المجتهدين. So this was what happened exactly when Iraq and Egypt were conquered. The question regarding the distribution of the land arose. Umar radiallahu anhu was of the opinion, here there is ikhtilaf between Sahaba. So we will see what caused this agreement. So Umar radiallahu anhu was of the opinion that it should be left in the hands of the origin owners, and the land tax, kharaj. So this was the opinion of Umar. So it should be imposed upon them, and the proceed of the land tax should be utilized for the welfare of the Muslims. Whereas other Sahaba were of the opinion or view that it should be distributed among the soldiers themselves. So now, what do you think? What is the reason for this disagreement? Sister Alpha, want to ask question, or I will leave inshallah 5 minutes at the end for you to inshallah to comment or to ask question or to add on what I have said, inshallah. Don't worry. Okay, so what is the reason for this disagreement between the Sahaba that I just mentioned just now? So you will come to know that the reason for this disagreement was their different understanding of the Quranic provisions relating to the problem. It is stated in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Anfal, verse 41, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. The verse means, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم, and know that whatever of war booty, al-ghanima booty, that you may gain, verily 1/5 of it is assigned to Allah. فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ, and to the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى, and to the near relatives. This means the relatives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى, and to the orphans. وَالْمَسَاكِينِ, the poor. So, وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, and to the travelers or welfare. So, According to Umar radiallahu anhu, this verse lays down a general rule which is qualified by the followings that are mentioned in Surah al-Hashr. In verse 10, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاءُوا مِن بَعْدِهِمْ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. And those who came after them say, Oh Allah, forgive us and our brethren who came before us or have preceded us in faith. So, Umar radiallahu anhu interpreted the word وَالَّذِينَ in this verse, Surah Al-Hashr, وَالَّذِينَ, as linking particular to the previous verse. The previous verse in same surah, Surah Al-Hashr, verse 7, ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. So what Allah has bestowed on His messenger and taken away from the people of the township belongs to Allah and His messenger, etc. Thus, according to Umar radiallahu anhu, both the verses that I have just mentioned just now deal with the same subject matter. However, the majority, you can call it the majority, the jumhur of the companions of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu did not subscribe to Umar's interpretation or understanding. On the contrary, they opine that both the verses mentioned deal with different issues. So the verses, the Surah Al-Anfal verse, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. This verse deal with al-ghanima, according to them, al-ghanima booty, whereas the later one, the verses in Surah Al-Hashr from verse 7 until verse 10, from verse 7, ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا واتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب للفقراء المهاجرين الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم وأموالهم يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا وينصرون الله ورسوله أولئك هم الصادقون. And then والذين تبوأوا الدار والإيمان من قبلهم يحبون من هاجر إليهم ولا يجدون في صدورهم حاجة مما أوتوا ويؤثرون على أنفسهم ولو كان بهم خصاصة ومن يوق شح نفسه فأولئك هم المفلحون. Then Allah say والذين جاءوا من بعدهم يقولون ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. So those three verses from verse 7 to 10, according to Jumhur al-Sahaba, deal with fay'. The first one deal with ghanima, booty. This one deal with fay'. Thus, according to them, it is obligatory to distribute the conquered land among the soldiers. So here what I want to say, I think this is a very good example here that I have given here, that what, if we may ask question here, what leads to this disagreement between the Sahaba? These are Sahaba, not Fuqaha. What? Umar has opinion and the majority of the Sahaba have different opinion. Why? This one is due to the first causes of the disagreement, which is disagreement, ikhtilaf, owing to the different understanding or interpretation of a legal text on those verses that I have just mentioned just now. So have a lot of example regarding this first cause. So because due to the time factor, so I think I just give one example. This is that will make it clear. We can move to number 2. Before moving to causes number 2, like there are a lot of questions here. So I didn't know if Sister Balqis with me. Would you like to give them few minutes if maybe they could ask directly question related to what I have mentioned till now, or how? Sister Nurul Balqis?
Maybe we can, participant will can drop your question in the chat box.
Okay. So I should proceed.
Yes, please, Doctor.
Okay. Because last time we do promise them that they will be allowed to comment or to ask question or to add something to what I have discussed. So it could be better, I think. So, but let me proceed then. At the end, I will stop, inshallah, before my time. The second cause is, or which leads to a disagreement between the companions, is occurrence of homonyms, which is mushtarak or al-mushtarik al-lafzi. Occurrence of homonyms, occurrence of homonyms mushtarak in the legal text. So this is the second cause. There are words in so many words actually in Arabic language which carry more than one meaning and sometimes even opposite meaning, and thus will give rise to different interpretations as well. Such words are called in Arabic or in Usul al-Fiqh homonyms, mushtarak or mushtarik actually. So there are many Quranic texts, ayat and verses where homonyms occur, and to which different interpretations have been given by the companions as well as the jurists. For example, the word qada, is used in Quran Kareem, is used in different meanings actually. At some places, at some verses, it refers to adjudication, hukum. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for example, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. While at other places, the word qada is used to denote. Or denote, command, enjoy, convey, and etc. So this is how it occurs. And even the other verses or some verses, it means al-wahi actually. Al-wahi, like in Surah Al-Hijr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about the story of Nabi Lut. So the companions disagree on certain legal issues due to the occurrence of homonyms in the legal text. For example, in the Quran, we read in the context of iddah, for divorced women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ, meaning divorced women wait concerning themselves for 3 quru periods. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 2 to 7. So, what is the meaning of quru in this verse? وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ. So, the word quru, it's a clear example of homonyms. That's why I ask question, what is the meaning of quru? So the word quru is actually used in opposite meanings. Namely, it has been taken to stand for the state of purity, which is the state of purity, and which is al-tahara or al-athar, and for menstruations, which is hayd. That is why Aisha radiyallahu anha and Zayd ibn Thabit and Ibn Umar are reported to have maintained that Quru means, quru in this verse, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء, means the period of purity between menstruations, al-athhar, or you can call it tuhur. Whereas the majority of the Sahaba, majority Jumhur, Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman, Abu Bakr, Ibn Mas'ud, majority of the Sahaba maintain that the word quru means menstruations, al-hayd. So here we have two different opinions because of the homonyms of the word quru. As a result of this, different interpretations, as a result of this different interpretation, the companions had different views regarding the following problems that I will state it now. Number one, those who maintain that quru means purity, which are Aisha and Zayd bin Thabit and Ibn Umar. Those who maintain that quru means purity between two menstruation period draw the conclusion that the duration of the iddah comes to an end with the beginning of the third course. Whereas, according to those who maintain that quru means menstruation, the waiting period terminates on the beginning of the fourth course. So this is first thing we need to consider. Number two, those who held the first views upheld that divorced women may enter a marriage contract as soon as her third course begins. On the other hand, to those who maintain the second view, Jumhur, hold that she cannot enter a marriage contract until the end of her third course. Number three, those who maintain that quru means period of cleanliness hold the view that the right of inheritance, al-fara'id, mirath, will be waived or cancelled with the beginning of her third course. This is the case where one of them died during her waiting period. On the other hand, according to those who maintain the second view, Jumhur, her right to inheritance remains until the end of her third course. So this is a very concrete example of how homonism causes disagreement between the Sahaba. So if Sahaba have these different views because of the word quru, homonyms, al-ishtirak, so that means also definitely the fuqaha also will have disagreement in same issues. So 5 minutes left. I think I should stop here. Inshallah, next session, I will be talking about the third cause or reason which causes ikhtilaf or disagreement among the scholars. So I think most of you want to comment or want to add something to what we have discussed. So I do hope that Sister Balqis will consider and give them opportunity. Allahu A'lam.
Yes,
Over to you.
Doctor, maybe I will give you to answer maybe from the previous question, the last class. If you have already the answer, maybe you can answer the question.
I'm not sure of the questions last time because I didn't get any questions. So, but you can read them.
All right.
If short question, inshallah, we can address now.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I will look at the chat box first.
No. But what I mean is, if you can give opportunity to those raising them their hands now, it could be good while you are trying to read the previous questions.
Okay. Maybe I will give one question from Sister, I don't know, Sister Alpha Mansuru. Is that you? All right. Sister, you can ask a question. Oh,
I think you need to unmute her.
yeah, already.
Mhm.
Okay, seems like she's not here. So it's okay, never mind. For those participants who want to ask a question, maybe you can drop your question in the chat box. Later on, we will compile the question and we will send to Dr. Hassan Suleiman, inshallah. And for the next class, in the beginning, maybe you can answer first the question, inshallah.
Okay,
Okay, Doctor? Inshallah.
inshallah.
Because of time consuming, I'm so sorry.